Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Carly from Carly's Creative Clay. I thought I would start off by showing you that Thymo has re-brought back their Neon Effect clay range. Now, I know there are a lot of Thymo effects that are out there that I don't use a lot. So I was going to quickly talk through some of what I don't have and show you through these ones that I do have. Now, I am aware that it's all looking a bit washed out on the camera because cameras are not good with neons. But if you look at any typical highlighter pen, these three look very much like highlighters. I'll hold them up to the camera and see if we can do any better. If I angle it down, that looks far more like what it actually is, but it's very neon. The light does wash it out a bit, especially on the yellow. That yellow really is a highlighter colour. Now, so pink, yellow and orange, there's no way I could recreate them by mixing clay. Back a bit, there we go. Turn the intensity up, having a bit of a fiddle around with it. I don't think I could mix different colours to form those. Now, the blue, lilac and green are a little less impressive. They look far more just like those colours in pastel. I'm pretty sure I can mix them. To my eye, the lilac just looks like they're raspberry pink, but who am I to judge? Well, they're back, and these three I'm definitely going to end up putting into my circulation. Now, I normally have, in the effects range, I normally keep the gold, silver and copper. Let me grab those. And a metallic pearl. So, just dropped my silver. There we go. Right. How they get their metallics is they mix mica powder in. Mica is a type of mineral that is very, very shiny, has a kind of metal effect to it.
Can you see that?
Sorry, there we are. That's the gold and the copper. That's the silver. Now, you can mix these in with other colours. So, I often mix the silver in with black to make a gunmetal colour. I mix the silver into a lot of colours. It mixes really well in with the purple. But if I'm looking to turn a colour metallic and I don't want to have either of these three tinge in it, there is the white, and it doesn't show up well at all on camera. At all. But I assure you, it's very, very fine glitter in it. They call it the metallic pearl. It does have a kind of pearl. It's very, very fine glitters in those ones. Now, in the effects range, you've also got translucent. I hear Sculpey's translucent is actually far more see-through than Thymo's. With the Thymo one, you're looking at more like an ocean glass kind of smoky see-through. They do a pastels range, which I don't see the point of because you can just mix white in with any of your colours and achieve that. They do a glitter range. Now, their glitters are pretty good, and we're going to be using some of that actually today. So let's show you some of that. That's the yellow. You can see they put quite a lot of glitter through it.
And it's throughout.
And it's throughout the whole block. It's so you can mix it up yourself with your own glitter. You are going to eat through a lot of glitter that way. They do stone ranges. Now, this is the granite. So can you see how it's like a glitter they've put in, but it's very matte and black, and they've put in a fine silver as well. And no matter how you condition that, those black bits stay on the surface. So it works really well.
Hi there, hope everyone's well.
Hi Liz, thank you. Yeah, we're doing okay. I'm feeling a bit rubbish, but you know, that's my normal. So they can be really good. But where I use a lot of clay, I try to narrow down the ranges that I get and mix them where I can myself out of colours I've already got. But yeah, so I thought I'd show you them. Next thing to show off is how the fawn ended up after it was varnished. I am so pleased with it. I varnished the horns, the mouth. I painted in, let's bring it up closely, some eyelids with a very fine brush. The mouth has got a gloss on it. The horns have got gloss on them, and the base and the hoofs and the fingernails. That's it. The rest of it I left, oh, and the jewellery. The rest of it I've left unvarnished, and I'm really pleased with him. I actually managed a facial expression that wasn't kind of miffed.
That was the one you were going for, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the one I was going for, happy laughter. So I look forward to giving other facial expressions a go. Now, I said last week that I was going to this week attempt to do a peacock, but I got a commission in, and I'm not taking in commissions generally because of all this COVID stuff and me being on the vulnerable side. I don't want to deal with the post office. But this is for my twin sister, and it's a friend of hers called Lynn. It's going to be Lynn's birthday, so she's going to share a video of me making this for her. So happy birthday, Lynn. I hope you like your magnets at the end of it all. What we're doing is dirty and clean magnets for a dishwasher. Most dishwashers have a metal front to them, and you can make two magnets, one saying clean, one saying dirty, so that you haven't got to open it up and see what's in the dishwasher, whether you're meant to be unloading it or whether you are putting your dirty thing in. Or the worst is when people don't check and it's clean and they put their dirty stuff in it, and then the whole lot needs redoing. So dirty and clean magnets. The brief was a springtime day on the clean involving a cat. So let's hold it up. It's not baked yet. I'm going to bake them both together. So I've used a metallic lilac on the lettering and on the tips of each of the sticky out bits of the bump, not on the inside.
Your hedgehog says that's so pretty.
Thank you. Made little flowers with beads in the middle and a pale green background, and if you can see, he's holding a ball that is kind of cat's eye. Let's hold it up. Can you see when I swivel the lines on that ball in its arms? So yeah, and on the back, let's see, let's do this carefully. Whoop. I've embedded some magnets. Now you got to make sure it's all solid on. You can shake it and it won't fall off. Then you know your creation is good to go. So I'm going to put this one out of the way as safe, and we're going to work on the dirty one. I was going to do them both on stream, but this took a good 3 hours to do that one. I don't think the dirty one's going to take that long.
This says very cute.
Thank you. So before I started decorating that back rectangle, I cut this out. I measured it. It's a bit of plastic put over the top, drew around it, cut it out so that I can make sure it's acetate, I think.
The stuff you use for
yeah.
projectors.
So that makes sure that you have them both uniform size. If you're going to write on the top of it, make sure you know which side is the top, because if you put anything, even like Sharpie or felt tipped pen, down on top of your wet clay, it will come off on your clay. So make sure you've got which side's the top and which side is the bottom. Now, because we're doing a nighttime theme, I'm going to do a Skinner blend for the background. So it looks kind of more like a skyline. And I went for a kind of dusky blue. So what that is the, what's the, I can never remember the name of that blue shade. Here it is. This blue, brilliant blue. It's always been a real blue to me, but I've at least learned long enough to know that it's not called that now and stop giving you guys the wrong name. Brilliant blue. Then I mixed it with black and white. The black to start getting it that smoky colour, the white to bring it back down from being really dark.
So you're trying to add grey.
If you go for Fimo's standard, let's see if I've got any, where's their standard navy? Why is it, I got there. Their standard dark blue, which is this colour, if you start lightening that down with white, it starts going into that rather than that. So you've got to go from a medium, darken it with black and then lighten it back down with white, which seems like a bit of a long way round, but that's how you get that kind of
Like
smoky darker grey blue. Right, now if you've noticed the white, that has got thin points to both ends of the triangle. This is because I don't actually want any white left in the Skinner blend at the end, but what I do want is a nice bit of that shade of darkish blue. So the triangle for this side has been cut off at the tip. Yeah, if you first start to do these and you can't get your head around lining it up and getting a flat line like that, it took me ages to do. It took me several attempts. I am dyslexic though, so what I end up doing is I roll out a very big triangle, that sort of size, then a smaller one, put the smaller one down to the bottom end and then cut it in a line like that. So it does mean I end up with extra blue, but I use all my scraps anyway. So you don't have to try and get that shape and then line it up. Some people, their eyes and brains will do it easily. Mine will not, and that's okay. So, pasta machine. This is a cheap £10 job off of eBay. I've used it for the whole 5 years I've been claying. I know people spend a lot of money on atlases. An atlas is a clay machine, a pasta machine designed for polymer clay, so the drop on it is a lot further. There's a whole lot of nice gadgets to it, but it's something like £150, probably more. It's not ridiculously expensive. It's worth what it's being charged for the engineering involved,
Just unnecessary.
but it's too rich for my blood. With a Skinner blend, the thing you need to make sure is how you're putting it through the pasta machine. You want the flat end to be at the top, so the bit where you took that triangle off, either at the top or at the bottom. If you put it in that way, then that blue will mix all the way across with that. It's going to fade in whichever top to bottom, so you want it in the right way. The other thing that is a really, really good thing to have as a habit.
It's going to fade left to right.
Yeah. It's going to what?
It's going to blend.
It's going to blend top to bottom.
So and the fade will go from left
and the
to right.
fade will go left to right. Yes, you're right. The other thing to get into the habit of is that you pick a side that you maintain the same colour. So if I put it through that way and then I flipped it over and put it through that way, the rollers are going to have the different colours smudging on them, and it will mess up how it goes. So I've given myself the rule, the lightest colour goes on the left, so light left. So every time I make sure I do that, then I don't end up with uncontrolled colour mixing.
Are you pinching there?
Right, the reason why I'm pinching the bottom edge, and again you can see that's not neat, it's not even, it's just so that it will connect in that little groove between the wheels and get there, so that you, because if you've got a big large flat bit, it will connect with bits and the roller will slip on others, so you'll end up with like a drizzle cake effect on the end. So make sure it's all nicely connected into the roller. I started my roller at the back position, so I'm in front of it here. You can see the reflection of me, hi, down there, right? So furthest away from me, I pull that all the way down to the bottom. Now your instinct is to push back and bring it back up to the top. Your arms take a lot more to do that top bit because you're fighting against gravity. What you do is you take your handle out, flip it down, put it back in, and you're back doing a push down. See? Now check that it isn't concertina in underneath, and then let it go through. So that's your first bit. Kind of thin, you can see I wasn't on the thinnest notch. I never work on the thinnest notch. I find it makes the clay too thin and too sticky. But I am going to go a lot thinner. Now I'm going to go one from the thinnest notch. Oops, sorry, just sorting out my heat pad. I've got backache today. So light to the left. Yeah, fold it over. Half asleep as well. Let's move the machine out. You can, if you're bringing the thickness down, you can run it through again before you fold it over. Now we're gonna go, the bit that's important is that you've lined up that, so you're giving yourself your bit of solid blue, and that your white isn't overlapping on that end. Then I go into the middle, push out that air bubble, and then start pushing it out to the side so the air's all gone but it's folded over. Now there are clay teachers out there that'll cuss me for what I'm about to do next, but it's absolutely fine, and I do it. I fold a second time, like so. Cuts your work down by half, and also when you're in a thicker stack like that, you can then push on the sides and control how wide it gets, so it don't end up too wide for your pasta machine. Now decide which is your bottom, so probably that one. Remember, light on the left. Give it a squeeze so that it will connect in with your pasta machine properly, like so, and we're back doing that again. Push it down. Now see, don't do the pull up because it's going to be hard on your arms. Back in at the top and down, and you're going to run it through.
It's very tempting to try and pull it up.
It's so tempting to pull it up, but trust me, this is hard enough on your arms pushing down, and you get quite fluid at it. Now because it's thin, you'll see underneath it's done a concertina. It flipped out when I moved it. You need to come underneath, pull that concertina clay forward so it sits like that, so that you've got more control. It's not sticking together in a way you don't want it to. Yeah, because you're going to control how it sticks together in a minute by folding it. This is always the toughest roll, is the second one, I find.
Says, does it matter that the edge is all jaggedy?
Nope, not at all. It's going to look scruffy. We're going to sort it all out afterwards. See how it wants to fold up like that. That's what you're trying
make
to
that
avoid.
stick like that.
And you've got to be very gentle in pulling it apart. Now at this stage, it will look like a mess. You'll have jaggedy bits, you'll have spotty bits and streaky bits, and it looks like a right old mess. Do not throw in the towel. This is correct. This is what it's supposed to look like. We're just gonna control it, sit it down again,
Start folding.
fold it in half, make sure the two sides are roughly lined up like that. There we go. Again, squeeze out that air bubble from the middle to the edge, fold it over. Now because I'm down so thin, I'm even going to fold it a third time. There are a lot of people who have a lot of real strong views that you can only do one fold with a Skinner blend or it messes it up. It's never messed it up for me. Now those jagged ends, all you're going to do is use your finger to tap along it, or you can use your ball to support right down at the bottom. Just do that.
I think with multiple folds, you would multiply
Do that.
any mistakes lining the edges up.
Yeah.
But just don't make a mistake lining the edges.
Yeah, if you mess up lining the edges up, then doing multiple folds will make it even worse. The other thing you can see, there are some air bubbles. We'll sort them all out afterwards, because we'll be here ages, keep doing it after each fold. Again, there are people who think that's terrible, but it's entirely fixable. So, left to the left, because it's thinner, it's already quite tapered. So, long as it engages between the two rollers, and you can feel it when you try and tug on it a little bit, it's holding in there.
Sticking.
It's sticking. Back to the top. Now there are again the purist clayists who think you should be running this through 50 to 100 times to get it absolutely smooth as silk. I find 3 or 4 and then I'm bored and I'm done, and it looks fine. I think there comes to a point where it's mixed already. You don't you don't need to be worried as much as you're worrying. You're not trying to make it so that a microscope thinks it's mixed. You're trying to make it so that the human eye thinks it's mixed. That's all. That last little bit was easy to turn up. Now, this is the stage that if you didn't see it and be assured that it's normal, you definitely would chuck the towel in. Look at the mess that is this. Let's bring it up. It's streaky. There's big old patches of white. It looks like a complete fugly mess. That is normal. That is middle stage. It's just what happens. Keep going with it. Right, let's get that on flat. Line it up. About there. It's really the edges and getting those stripes roughly in the same place. And over again. Push the air out to the edge. Yeah, I'm trapping really big air bubbles there, but at least you can see the air going out to the edge with that big one. There we go. If it sticks to your board too much, just run your tissue blade under it. Out to the edge. And then we can control those scruffy sides by just pushing them in. Now, can you see it's not met that edge there properly? That's fine. It don't have to be precise. Yeah. I've ended up with a bit of extra white there. Chuck that on the end there. It must have pulled off at some point. You can see this is a real precise bit of engineering accuracy, isn't it? You wouldn't want me to do chemistry, put it that way. But it's art. You're not doing chemistry. Something I was thinking about recently. When I first started claying 5 years ago, I kept thinking it's going to be so nice when I get to that stage finally where I have mastered the art and I've learnt it all. 5 years on, I'm actually thinking it's not possible, and I think that might actually be a good thing. And here's why. Whenever you do learn something, so say you want to say, I want to learn how to do a Skinner blend, and you finally take the time and do tutorials like this, and you get your Skinner blend and it's worked out for you, you then find out that now you've got a Skinner blend, there are so many different things that you can do with your Skinner blend. So then you're off learning what to do with your Skinner blend and learning, and you come across caning. Oh, what's caning? Then that's a new world opens up. Everything you learn has something associated with it that is entirely new area, entirely new ground for you. That's going to need to go through once more. Can you see it's streaky? Yeah, but the fade is really getting there.
It's beginning to blend.
Sometimes that streaky look can be really good, especially if you're doing a misty background. So if you want a rainy, misty day, that would be brilliant. But I want to make this a little more crisp. So through I go again. Like that. So, and I was thinking this. Like Van Gogh, I don't think he actually in his life ever felt he was an expert at it.
I don't think he sold any paintings.
He didn't even sell any paintings when he's alive. So technically, I'm more successful with my art than he was during his lifetime. So it's all a cloudy, mixed up little thing. And what you've got to remember to do is enjoy the process. If your validation, if your only point to doing it is to produce a perfect end result, you're gonna...
He only sold one painting.
Sorry, he sold one painting in his lifetime. Thank you, Google gods.
That's less than you have.
That's still less than I have. But you get... In most industries, there's a boss somewhere saying, you're doing good, these are where you can improve. You're graded by someone else. In art, it's so subjective. You're going to have haters. You're going to have people who love it. You've got to understand that if you put your work out there, that's a thing. No matter what stage you're at. It's a thing for my work. All the time. And I'm fine with that. People have emotional responses to art, and you've got to see that each piece you make is slightly better than the piece you made before in your eyes, and that you look for the good in your creations, because again, we're trained to look for all the flaws and all the things you want to correct. Still looking a bit streaky, but I'm thinking I'm going to keep some of those streaks in because I'm doing it as sky. What do you reckon?
I like it.
Some of these streaks in a bit?
Yeah, I think that.
I think it works. If I put it through another 2 times, they will all vanish and it will be an absolutely perfect fade. Now I don't need a sheet this big. I need a thick chunk for that background.
So you do the same
So
steps again.
we're going to fold it up again. So yeah, what was I saying? You're your own judge.
So Hedgehog says, I like it.
You're going to have people hate your work. And you've got to enjoy the process of making and creating. It's hard to sell. It's hard to put yourself out there. And that's got no reflection on your talent. It's so variable. Right, I'm folding it up into a lump where I can deal with it. Let's get this pasta machine out the way. Whoop. Can you stick that on the floor, please? And I'll clean that up after straw. Now, I want to go dark down to light. But again, that's too tall. I want something that shape. Yeah? So we're going to change the shape of this clay. Now, what you're looking for as your big warning sign that you need to stop what you're doing and change it over is if the clay starts to concertina, which is that effect. Yeah? You get wavy if it starts to fold in itself. Now, I love a glass chopping board for this. What I'm going to do is use the glass to hold it firm, and I'm pushing at the edge, and you can see it's just starting to concertina. So I flip it over, push that flat, and I'm pushing along like that. Whoop. Get rid of that white crumb. If a crumb comes off, you want it right out of the way because you don't want it to stick where you don't expect it. Starting to fold up there. I'm going to hold it in the middle. You can also do it pinching like that, but you can cut and stack them up, but I find you lose the gradient I like, and I prefer doing it this way personally. You can roll it. If you start seeing ridges, you can get a rolling pin on and just get it a little flatter. You're just pushing. But the other option is you cut out little discs like that and then stack them up on top of each other. Yeah, but I know I'm away from it, see?
Oh, you're doing it that way?
Yeah, dark down to light. So, I got a ways to go. Like so. And if I was doing this for something that wasn't sky, I would be even more careful with what I'm doing. You can also use the side of your rolling pin just to push along that edge, but it's really this way that we want to go. I keep going, keep turning, and we're getting there. Now, see, it's just starting to put a few creases in, and those I'm just working out. But it's getting thicker and it's getting to the shape that I want, and we'll be able to smooth this all out afterwards and make it not look this scruffy. So Lynn, if you're watching, don't be nervous. This is not what your end piece is going to look like. So I'm just pushing from the middle out to the edge and down like that. We're getting there, aren't we? See? And you can make your clay whatever shape you want. You can make your Skinner blends move around. You can make your patterns move around a lot less, but they will go. So now I'm going to work on getting some of those crease lines out, like so. Picking it back up because I want all this clay. I don't want to do much trimming. And you can see on the other side there were some air bubbles. We're about to address them. Now we're roughly where I want it to be. So air bubbles. We're going to come through. Where's my pin tool? Pin tool, there we go. We're going to come through and push some of the air bubbles together so that they make the biggest one, and then just use the pin tool to pop it like so. So even if you end up with a lot, and I don't usually end up with this many, but I did say I was tired and foggy, you can still get them gone that quickly. Now,
The only important thing is to remember to do it.
yeah, just remember to do it. If you leave them in, it's still not terrible, because it's not like ceramics where the whole thing will explode if there's an air bubble in it. But it's a pocket of non-solid matter, so you're going to end up with a thinner bit, two thinner bits rather than one thick bit. So can you see I'm just coming along with my finger and smoothing out some of those crease lines and moving around some of that fade so that it's not such even lines, so it looks more like sky. I'll do the same on the other side. Just use your finger. The other thing that's good for it, palette knife. If you've got the tools, use the tools. But a finger is your best tool. See? And those little stabs where you got rid of the air all vanish out very, very quickly. Whoops. But just make sure when you go down like that, you wipe your palette knife off, or you're in danger of doing a bit too much mixing. Right, that's what I think is good. Now the edges are a little bit scruffy, but I do plan to trim this down anyway. So that's going to be my top side. Let's get a bit of grease-proof paper so I don't have to move it around so much. Come on, get rid of those crease lines. There we are. That's what I want. Right, get my sign, make sure that the ink is on the top, which it is. Pick a bit that I like, which I'd say that'll do it, like that. Tissue blade, and we're gonna trim it down
Using that as a template. Yeah.
using the plastic template that you've made. Now what I tend to do is, because I don't want to buy two separate things, I've got a laminator and I've got a whole lot of laminating pockets. So if you haven't got acetate and you've got laminating pockets, just run it through your laminator without anything inside, and it makes the hard plastic sheets. I'm going to move that out of the way, it's making too much noise for me. There we go. Right, we're down to the right size now, and all these bits I put to one side. I am not throwing them away, don't worry. Check that the thickness of this one is the same as the thickness as the other one. Whoop. I don't want them, yeah, they look about right. Now you are going to be baking these with magnets in, and magnets go through the oven fine at that temperature. You're not going to demagnetize your magnets, so don't worry.
It's not hard enough to reach the Curie point.
Yeah, it's just not hot enough for it to reach the point to demagnetize. So do not worry about that. So first thing, let's flip this over onto its back. Smooth out that back a little bit, because I left it a bit scruffy, like so. And we're going to put two magnets in. So what I do is I use something metal to make sure that I'm on the right side, sticking out, because the magnets have... Why are you doing that? You should work. There we go. They tend to have one side that works better than the other. So like that, like that. Try and get them level. Level helps. It looks better. Push them down almost completely flat with your background. Now, because I'm me and I like to make sure that things are properly secure, what I'm going to do is take some of that spare clay, roll it out into a thin band like so, and put that around the edge of the magnet, and then I'm going to use my palette knife just to smooth that in. You can also take the magnets out and 2-part epoxy them in. That's an option. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the magnets will stay in place without any gluing. But don't forget, you're going to be pulling them on and off of something metal, and each time there's going to be a force behind the clay and the magnet. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure that they're actually fit for purpose and your magnets aren't going to come off after a month. So like that, roll it down so it's flat. Then I come in with my...
You can even embed them in something because the magnetism will go through the clay.
You can literally put the clay over the whole thing because the magnetism will go through the clay. I have done that when I've done smaller magnets. It just depends on the strength of the magnet, but most magnets actually will go through clay fine. There we go, that's that one smoothed in. You do end up with slightly scruffy edges against the magnet if you do it this way. You can literally just put the whole sheet over the top, but I find this works well for me. I come round once it's baked and just start to de-scruffy up some of those edges. Let's push the clay around the magnet a bit more, like so. There we are. So that should be embedded in nicely. And remember to do this stage before you decorate the back, because you don't want to have to come by and smush up all your work by embedding magnets in. If that's the case, you've forgotten to put the magnet in, you might just want a 2-part epoxy it in after. Right, there we go. So that's your 2 magnets in. Now remember, if you're going to use a metal baking tray, they're going to stick to that, so you don't want to try and lift them back up again whilst they're raw off a metal baking tray. Now, first thing, let's get all that extra out the way. I'm going to do that wavy border. Is my first bit. Right, I've got some grey that I mixed up. I know Fimo sells its own grey, but I don't use grey enough to buy it. I just mix up my black and white. And I'm going to bring this out into a stick that is uniform with the other one that I used. Keep going. And when you're doing a wavy line like that, it does notice if your thickness is different along the line, so do pay attention to that. And if, like this, there's a section there that's slightly thicker than the other, just go either side of it and just pull like that, and then it's gone. So you can control down the line of the stick any bumps that are too big. The other thing, if you go too thin, so let's go too thin here and go, oh, that's now not looking right. Hold either side of it, and push together. Then give it a gentle roll just to get rid of the uneven bumps. And can you see it's now back at the right thickness? So you control your clay. Don't let it try and control you. It can be intimidating when you first start to work on things. You think you've got to measure absolutely everything because you can't undo it. Everything can be undone. Now, how I've got those uniform swells is I found something that has the loop size that I want, and I'm using that as a measure. So, first join flat against the outside. Put whatever it is you're using as a measure in and pinch it either side like that. Twist and take that out. The twist is to stop it sticking. Then you're going to go on the outside edge there and use that as your loop up. Then let's spin around. Because you've got a long bit of clay still, it's going to be a little bit more fiddly until we get to the other side of it. So again, pinch it in, whoop, pinch it in, roll it out, go on the outside, fold the clay up around it there, then you're going back on the inside, pinching it, roll it, keep going around like that, and it does go through pretty quick, but it means that your little bumps are all completely uniform. You can freestyle it. When I started, I used to freestyle it, and it just looks slightly less polished. That's all I can say. Quirky, people would say it's quirky and charming and use words like that. Whereas this looks a little bit more like you thought about it. Yeah? And you'll find all around your house different tools with different size handles on them. So you can get a bump that is exactly the right size for you. Now, we're going to go around and make sure that they're all firmly stuck down on the join bits because they are break risks. But that is in a minute. Let's just finish this stage first and I'll get to that in a second. Right. Whoop. See how quickly it goes? You can line it up with the top edge if you want, but there's a reason I'm lining it up with the bottom edge. It's because I want to put something around the edge. I'm going to put little stars because it's night time. And I want them to be able to rest in that space. Now, last end, I know I'm not going to need all of that, so let's break that off. Because the last thing you want to do is break it off and then realise that you need that extra clay and you've got more than one join. Because one join is finicky enough to deal with, let alone giving yourself two joins that you didn't need. Right. We're on to the last little loop, so probably break it here. See, I've broken it off. Now I'm going to come in, join that there and start to work on that join a little. Where's my ball tools? There we go. I'm going to come in with a ball tool and start to smooth over that join line. And I've purposely made the join line on one of those inside dips where I'm going to cover it with a star. So it's not as obvious as if I put it on the outside loop like that. I'm going to come in and make sure that wherever the clay is pushed against the rectangle, I'm going to come in with the ball tool, just force it on, make sure that it's properly stuck on there, because you don't want it to come off. It's a thing that happens. So really force that on. And if you see, I'm holding the rectangle just to give the extra push off. Right, we're like that. Brilliant.
It looks like one of the loops on the right hand side is closed up a bit.
Which one? That one?
Yeah, can you see how the middle?
Yep. If your loop closes up a bit, just use any tool that is good for you. Yes, use a ball tool just to push it back out again, like that. See? Now, next stage, I'm going to do the lettering, because after that I'm going to do the mica powder on the letters and on these loops all at the same time. So, spare old bit of grease proof that I've used before that I don't mind getting all completely covered in mica powder. Now, I know you all know how to spell dirty. It's a thing. Unless you're like me, that's dyslexic, and you're 90% sure you know how to spell it. I submit to you, it will take you 3 minutes just to check it on Google and then write it down on a bit of paper in front of you, the right spelling. Because once you got it on there and you got it planned out and baked and all that, that's a hell of a time to find out that you spelt it wrong. Especially if it's going to someone else, and you can get tunneled into your project so much that you don't notice you've missed something out, or you've put the R on back to front. All these things, these are things. The struggle is real. Write it down in front of you. I have it. It's on the wall over at a camera. So, we're doing dirty. So you find your D. First off, I roll my clay into roughly the thickness of the spaces. Now, this is a Katie Sue Designs silicone alphabet moulding. You can get all sorts. This is the common one you get off of eBay, and I've loved that loads, but it's a bit big for these sorts of signs. You can get ones like this, but can you see where it's got all these tiny thin little indents? Trying to get your clay out of that unwarped is very difficult. And you can also have quite shallow treads. These are Sugarcraft alphabets. Sorry, off centre. So you can get lots of these off of line, but I've found the ones from Kathy Sue's I've loved. And she's got her own website, and there's several different ones. This is the smallest one she had, but I've got a few of hers, and yeah, this one I love. It really is the most used mould in my whole collection, and the only time I use moulds is for alphabets, because I find freehanding is just not uniform enough. So got a clay at the thickness roughly to fit in, and we're going to start with the D up in one corner, and we're going to lay that in roughly, trying to make sure we don't trap any air in that last little bit. So always just give it a room to escape, and then seal the escape route. You're going to have it looking overlapping like that. Yeah? So if I was to hold it, you can see that is not level. Okay? Then what we're doing, get one of your fingers, you're going to put it over the letter, push down and rock your finger around like that. I know you can use tools to do this, but I find you're more likely to stick it to the tool and pull the hole out. Once I finish rocking, especially if it feels quite stuck to my finger, I roll my finger off, rolling it sideways. I don't just pull up. You pull up, you're going to unmold all your clay. You will find little bits come off in your finger, and they're just the very edges that have been smudged. Okay, so once that's firmly in, we're going to take our tissue blade. The useful thing about this being a rubber mat, it does not slide. Can you see? It's on the glass and it's held. You're holding your blade either side, and you're going to put it down against the top edge of that rubber. Now, you don't want to drag with it downwards. You really want it as horizontal as possible, because what you're in danger of, and this is what you want to feel for. Can you see in the center of the A's, the D's got one of these little tiny stalks we've got? If you catch that with your blade and you shear it off, then forevermore your mold is going to have a couple of millimeters too short a centerpiece. So if you feel it hitting rubber, stop pulling. Angle your blade back up again and try again. So what I'm doing is I'm resting it on these two fingers like that, and then got my thumb holding it, and I'm guiding with these. Yeah, I'm putting a slight bend like that in the blade. This is a rigid one. You can do it in a flexible one, but I want more control of that center area. That's why I use rigid. If you try and go flat, you're going to find it harder, so you're going to put that bend in, use your fingers and thumb to control it, and you're just taking off that top layer like that. See? That goes into your to be used again pile. Now if you look, there's going to be two issues with what's left behind. First, it's slightly scruffy around the edges. Look at the center of that D. Secondly, it will have pulled away slightly on the top edge of where the blade hit. Now let's hold it up. Can you see how there's that dark little gap there? Yep. That is normal. That's just called physics. What you're going to do then is use a clean finger. So when you do letter mold, sorry, I buried my kitchen roll under all my used tools. Give your fingers a wipe. You're just going to push off around the edge back into the center of the clay any scruffy bits. So I'm just stroking it gently towards the center of the clay to get rid of all those little scruffy edge bits, and slightly tapping down to fill that little empty gap. Right, doesn't take long, and you see you're now, there's no gap there, and it's all smooth and lovely. Yeah, now we're going to take it out, and you want, in real life, you'd love to just be able to go like that and pick it up and it comes out. You can if you've used mica powder in it like this, or a release agent. And a good release agent for polymer clay, I know it sounds weird, Armor All Protective Gloss Clean. It's you meant to spray it on your car upholstery to clean it down. It's a whole science thing about how it's not water, it's an oil base, but it's designed to evaporate really quickly so it doesn't get into the clay. Some people use water. Water is risky. If it gets into the clay, you're in trouble. So what I do though with these is I fold the mold down around it. Silicone can take that level of pressure. Can you see now? We're up to the edge like that, and the only thing holding it on is its little pin. Then you can get your fingers, just gently give it a wiggle, and out it comes your letter. See? I can put that down, and I will be quicker with the rest of them because I'm not trying to show you it so detailedly. So, next letter, an I. Very simple. I have heard people say that they wish their letter moulds were laid out in a QWERTY rather than in an alphabetical order. I personally am glad that they're not. But there you go.
Right. Don't touch type, do you?
I don't touch type though. That would be a thing. So, where did I put my blade? That's a good thing to admit on camera. Oh, my rolling pin rolled on top of it. The problems are real. Right. Quick take off. Blade away. Always face your blade away. Tidy the edges up. Like that. You can bake them with scruffy edges and then sand them. The other thing you can do is you can get your letters finished, bake them, and then push them down into the clay so that it's level with the clay. I want that kind of raised effect that I've got on that one. Yeah. But it's totally a thing of being able to push them in when they're baked. D-I-R. Now, ours are got a bit more of a curve around. So what I do is I take the clay slightly thinner than the actual space, so that I've got more room to bend around that circle. Like, whoop, pulled it out. That's not good. Put it back in again. Because you want that middle peg to be in the right place. So I've done like a P, and now I'm going to add in another little bit of clay just to fill in that R. Any joins on your clay will be smoothed out when you force it down with your finger. So like that. You see you've got a join line in there. That will vanish out nicely. But you want to make sure that you've not forced the centre pin off to one side, or when you turn it out you're going to have a really wonky looking weird letter. Quick wiggle. And that wiggle gets rid of air. It gets rid of join lines where you've put in lots of different bits. And this is how you do molds. So if you were going to do sort of like a big complicated picture that involved lots of colours, it's little tiny bits that you put in, and it's once you push it all down that it all connects up and goes right. But mould usage is a skill all on its own. And I know you could, a freehand sculptor can think, well, mould work is cheating and that takes all the skill out of it. Trust me, mould work's got its own skill. Getting it, all the colours to lay in the right place without air bubbles is not simple. And that's why I just stick to letters. I decided very early on whether I was going to go down the working with moulds path with my polymer clay. And I felt that if I started with moulds, then I would stay in that comfort zone and not branch out into freehand sculpting. And if I didn't branch out into freehand sculpting, I'll forever be tied down to what moulds I can buy, which I didn't want to. But I have not found a way of uniformly sculpting letters so that they look right. So I thought I had to compromise on that. D-I-R-T, one Y left. Then we're going to mica it. Now, I'm going to tell you this up front. I'm going to put a dust mask on when I mica. You will see lots and lots of YouTube videos where people just literally crack out their mica powder and go for it. It is a mineral particle that your lungs cannot break down. Small amounts, that's probably fine. You're probably breathing more rubbish in when you go on the underground. But if you can save your lungs and you know you're going to be doing something like that, it's not a hardship to put a mask on. The other thing I do is you can get from the supermarket vanilla powder for baking. I mix a tiny pinch of that in with my mica powders when I get them. So if I start spilling that stuff and kicking it up in the air, I can smell it and notice it, because you don't really notice it until a sunbeam goes through your room and it lights up like Aladdin's cave. You don't notice how much mica you've kicked up into the air. So kick your cats and dogs out if you're mica in. Don't have them sat in the same room as you if you're kicking that stuff up. It is a really, really fine powder. I mean, look at the black. Look how fine that is. You can barely see it. It's one of the finest powders you can get. And it really likes being airborne, because if you look at it under microscopes, they're tiny little flat discs. So they behave almost like parachutes. They stay airborne for ages. So be careful. Don't use mica in a breezy room. Put a mask on. Make sure that you're not going to sneeze. All that sort of thing. Gotta be careful with it. And yes, they do edible mica. And yes, that's probably better in your lungs and will probably dissolve, because I think it's sugar crystals they use. But I use the actual stuff, and just be careful with it. So, let's get my mask on.
Had it before they,
I didn't. Yeah, I got all my mica way before I even knew that. Dropping my hairband. Putting a mask on always takes my hairband out. There we go. Hairband back on, so that I can lean down and not cover myself in hair. And glasses back on. Now, paintbrush. We want quite a narrow one. That'll probably do it. And we're going for a gunmetal colour. Let's move that out of the way first. Is it me, or when I wear a mask, because the mask doesn't sit snugly against the bottom of my chin, I feel the need to open my mouth all the time?
You might need to adjust the fit. Get a different mask.
So, you can see it's really, really fine stuff. And we're just going to burnish over the top with that colour. Like so. Because everyone loves a bit of glitter. And you can see how little it actually needs. So a tub this size, I've been going for 5 years. And I got a huge mica collection at the start of it. And then haven't bought any more ever since. I went to someone called the Colour Shack. You can find them on Amazon and on eBay. They're in Leeds or Liverpool in the UK. I can't remember which, because it was 5 years ago. Really lovely woman there though. Really, really is nice. I hope she's doing alright for all this and she stays in business. A lot of good businesses have had to fold in these days and times. So when we go on to this, I'm making sure that I've not got too much mica on my brush, because I don't want it to flick up onto the square. So tiny, tiny dabs like this. And you can just mix it in with the clay, but you will use a lot more because you're putting mica through all the central bits that aren't going to be seen. And I wouldn't say it's the most expensive thing in the universe, but it's not cheap. So this tub is probably a couple of quid. I did buy it in bulk though, so I am not entirely certain. But yeah, so you don't need to mix it where it ain't being seen, just paint it on. you can use your finger as well, just dab a bit on and rub it in. You get a bit more of a shine when you rub it in. Now the other thing I'll say about it is, if you're using mica powder or acrylic or any other surface treatment on your clay, you're going to need to varnish. Because your clay is in the PVC family, a plastic, it's not porous, and it does have small pits to the surface. If you look at baked clay under the microscope, it's not smooth, and it does hold it a bit, but you will rub it off very, very quickly. So I tend to varnish in Deco Art gloss varnish, but anything that's a polyurethane varnish will do you fine. I know Fimo does its own varnish that actually works best if you bake it, which, don't ask me about the wizardry behind that one, but when you put Fimo gloss on and look at it, it's really unimpressive. If you put it in the oven and bake it with the rest of the clay, same temperature you would normal Fimo, it then starts to get all glossy. Right, let's get this lid on and do a quick clean up. Now the other thing I tried to do is not to flush this mica powder down the sink. I try to make sure that it goes into dustbins. And the reason behind this is because those little flakes don't half look like the little planktony small things that fish eat. Sorry, just knocking stuff off my side, don't mind me. And you don't want fish eating mica powder because it ends up in the food chain. Oh, before I take this off, one last thing I want to put on a mica powder. Where is it? My moon. There it is. Little white dot up in the corner, like so. And I'm going to put a bit of white mica powder over that, just to make it look more like a moon. Right, lid off over the paper. So I sweep this stuff into the bin when I have extra. Right, just tabbed on there.
That's looking so pretty.
Thank you. And the reason why I put a tad on the clay like that is because I'm going to take a finer brush and make it look like moonshine. Whoop. White powder getting everywhere. So yeah, you're going to need tissue. Mica powder is always a messy job. Here we go, finer brush. I'm just going to burnish that in like that. There we go. Then let's take this whole thing, tap off the extra. That looks more like a moon to me, so let's hold it up. See what I mean? The little bit of shine going on around it.
Like it's being seen through.
Now, let's get this mask off, because I'm going to throw all that away. Bring my dirty over and then put that in a bin. You can wet a bit of kitchen roll and use that to wipe it up, and so it sticks to the kitchen roll, and then you throw it. But I tend to just make sure I don't use too much extra, like that. Fold that up and that goes in the bin, because that is safer than it getting in the water table. And I know I'm not using like factory amounts or anything like that, but I'd rather not contribute to a problem if I can. Now, that's better, I can breathe again. So, I'm going to want to put a cat in there, so the dirty I want off to one side. So let's get the white in under the moon like this. You can put in a little guideline. Get your blade. Just gently, make sure it's clean. That would have been bad. Gently scratch in a straight line. Like that, and we'll smooth it out afterwards. So, Y, then goes your T. Now, if you're trying to get it centered, you'd start with the middle letter and work out. Because I want it over to this side, I'm starting with that side. And you're looking at how straight the letters are. You're looking at the width between the letters, not just whether they're sitting on the line or not. The good thing about a mould is you don't have to do a top line to check they're centered at the top, because they will be, because they're all from the same mould. A little bit closer. Now, if you need to move them around afterwards, I find either tweezers or push them around with something like this. So something flat. Instead of trying to pick them up, push them. The other thing that I would say before we push these down, you find someone else. So I'll go to my husband and go, Jamie, does that look straight? Sorry about this.
The spacing between the eye needs to go towards the R slightly.
Eye towards the R slightly. There's usually something that is slightly out, but you can see, there we go, moved over. That looks like it, doesn't it?
Perfect, yeah.
Yep, right. Once you're happy with it, come along, clean dry finger, and push the letter in gently down, but making sure it's stuck on. And again, you can see why if you did it with a baked set of letters, that might be easier. I'm just taking off, there's a bit of glitter on the surface where I moved that eye. There we go. Right, now I've got that on, I can come in and smooth out that guideline that I written. There we go, like that. Now I want to put a black cat over on this side looking towards that moon, like this, but I'm going to do the black bit last because it's black. The two other things that I want to do, first around the outside, I'm going to put, let's get the stars out, some gold stars. I'm going to show you how to make it. You're rolling out 5 teardrops like this. So you get your ball of clay and you're pinching and twisting until you're out to a teardrop. Then we're getting our bead, and I've chosen an orange bead, and you're going to lay it on your counter on its side so the 2 holes are there and there. Yeah? And you first off put 2 of those ball side together like that, and then wedge your bead in the middle so it looks like a little yellow bat. Then the next 2 go on the outside like that, and your 5th one in the top. Then you make sure that they're all stuck together by pushing on them. Use your blade and take them off. See? And I've used that glittery yellow for the clay, if you can see. Lots of nice glitter there. Now, where I put the flowers on this, I'm going to put the stars with these, it'd probably be easier if I actually came down and did it on the bottom edge. So along the bottom edge and then turn it round. Make sure they're stuck on properly and that you can actually move this around without them falling off, because if they fall off at this stage, they're going to fall off when they're baked. They're slightly bigger than my flowers are. I'm not sure if... Should I go smaller? What do you reckon? On the stars.
You could do, but I don't know how you would do it.
I'm going to put them on and I'll have a fiddle around with it later. If you want to go smaller, just make the little teardrops a smaller size. But they're looking alright actually.
Your hedgehog says I'd go smaller.
You'd go smaller? Okay. I will do, but I'll make them up afterwards because it takes a while to make them up.
Or maybe not.
No, I will. I think you're right. If we're going to do a job, we might as well do it right.
That was very hedgehog, so or maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see in the screen.
So I do all the other stuff and then I make the rest of the stars off camera. Okay. Right. So the stars are going to go on. So all we really need to do is I'm going to put a couple of flat back crystal yellows.
It says they are pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, they are very pretty stars.
Right, it's a diamond, they call it 3D diamond art pens. They pick up your little crystals, which is really useful. I'm just going to flip over you. There we are. When your fingers are just too big and you need a pair of tweezers. Yeah, that's better. It's just going to put a couple of these onto here to fill up some of that gap. And then I'm going to make a cap and put it on in the bottom corner. And that should be fine once I've done the little yellow stars for around the edge. And I hope this turns out to be what is wanted. I think it will be, so like that. That'll do. I'm just pushing them down with my finger to make sure that they're in the clay properly. Maybe one more just over under that moon. Like that.
Your hedgehog says so pretty.
Thank you. Right, we're on the home stretch. One black cat to do. So this is the picture I'm going to do that I've taken of what I want the cat to look like. Can you bring that up? So that kind of look is what I want sat in the corner there. So let's have a go at that. Because it's all black, we got a lot less detail that we got to put in. So let's bring that picture up on my phone quickly so I've got it in mind. There we are. So you've got a kind of almost tear-shaped body. I'd say that sort of size but with a tail. There we go. So I'm going to start off with a ball. Then on one side of that ball we're going to start off by making the tail. So we're going to pinch out and pull.
It seems a shame to cover any of it up.
Thank you, but you know, detail and all that.
Yeah.
So there's the tail. Now the neck comes up like that, and we're gonna need two little legs down here. So we're just pinching out two tiny little legs like so. So that's the body. Now we got to get it so that it's sitting in the right sort of angles. So I'm going to pull that back with a bit more of a curve there.
Oh, that's so cool.
Squeeze that bum in. There we go. Like that. I know we haven't got the back legs on yet, but we're just shaping this body so that it looks right first. So that looks more like it to me. So now we can come in and do a couple of little back legs. You're going to get 2 bits of clay, and this is going to be legs and the hips. So you want a decent enough to cover both of that. We will come in and put a bit more definition in those front legs. What we're going to do is we're going to squeeze out a little paw from your ball. So like that, okay? Let's do a pink background. 2 of those. And you want them to look as identical as possible. Now for the bit of magic. So let's do this up high. We're going to get this. We're going to bend that ball so that there's a little L shape rather than sticking straight out. So like that. Come around the back here of that bend and just pinch in a little more definition to that corner. See? Like that. 2 of those. So one of them's there. So get your ball, bend it over, pinch out the back so that there's a little bit more definition. And we're going to attach these with the points facing towards the neck, up at the back for back legs. So that's one side, that's 2 sides. Make sure that you're paying attention, that you're not squishing anything you shouldn't be squishing. Right, like that. Yeah? Now, I need a ball tool. I'm going to bring the gap between those front legs a little bit higher, like that. Bring that paw, put a bit of a bend in. Actually, they go down and out like that on this one, don't they? So pull that out, fold it down, and put a little tick out for a foot. So that sort of shape. Yeah? Now, I can put him... Whoops, I bent that foot over too much. There we go. When you're working on very miniatures, it's not easy. Let's put him in place. So, let's put those legs down like that. Bring his neck up to here. I'm going to push him down like that, and then we're going to bring the towel down so that it's going to sit on top of a star. So I'm just bringing the towel down so that it's there in place. Now we're on to that cat head. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is put a little bit of wire in that neck, just to make it so that it holds just a little better. So I've got quite a thin wire there. I think that one, where's my wire gauge bag? What I do when I get new wire, I cut a little bit of it and then write what gauge it is and put it in a bag so that I can then come along and tell you all. So that's a 22, bit of 22 gauge. Now with florist wire, the higher the number, the thinner the wire. And I'm just going to force that down that neck like that without taking out any detail, like so. It's easier to do with a long bit and then trim it than it is to try and get a short bit in there. Unless your florist wire does, as your clippers pull your florist wire out like that. Ah, there we are. Right, but at least you've got the hole and it comes back in nicely, like so. There we are. Right. So I can now do the head. Now, cat head. Get it the right sort of size. You're going to need some ball tools for this. And some of the finer little set. Unless you're going to do a big one. My first thing I do is score out where the eyes are going to be. Let's do that and then first show you. So, you see we've got two little eye dents. Then we come along, let's get a bit more black. Two tiny little balls for the little cheeks at the front for the nose to sit on the top of. So we've got two little balls like that. They've got to be the same size. Make sure that you haven't got one bigger than the other like I've got here. So come on off. There you go. It's so much harder when you're working in miniature.
Lucy said, "Hi, love you."
Hi. Right, the next thing, you want a tiny, tiny teardrop. Like that. Probably less end than that. Like that. Tiny little teardrop. Okay? And then we're going to want a bigger teardrop. So, I'll show you what we're going to do with all this. It is going to turn into a very cute cat mouth. So what you do, this is the construction of it. First ball goes towards the front, down the side there, towards the front of the nose, down the side there. And I will hold this up as soon as I got it on. Like so. See? There are the eyes. Up at the front there are those two balls. Now, in the gap underneath the balls, there, you're going to get that first little teardrop. And you're going to go point side towards the back, like that. So the rounded side is towards the two balls that you just done. So like that. And that gives it a little mouth. See? Now, whoops, there's a hair there. That longer one, like that, that goes along the bridge of the nose. Whoop. Oh, miniature work, man. It's not easy. Like that. Now, I know that looks weird right now, but we're going to do some smoothing in with our ball tool of that join line near the eye.
You're off the screen.
Sorry, I'm off the screen, am I? There we go. Like that. Let's get that head shape back because it's looking kind of odd at the moment because it's miniature work. There we go. Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't want to squash the face too much. Sorry, I'm just trying to re-sort out a facial problem here. That'll do it. There we go. Right. Cat face. Can you do a bit of focusing? Because there's no way they're going to see this.
It's so
Can you see where you smoothed in that bridge of the nose there? And then you got the little rounded cheeks and the mouth.
I think I can see it, but it needs eyes to get it.
It's going to need eyes, obviously, and it's going to need ears. But just that front facial. So, let's clean off my hands.
Her hedgehog thinks they look like toe beans.
They do.
Her hedgehog says love the toe beans, but it's not.
Right. You know, what I might do... Should I give him neon yellow eyes? Since I got that new neon in.
I'm not noticed.
I'm gonna give him neon yellow eyes. Gonna give him neon. Go. Thank you. Since it's only just come back, they had neon yellow in back when I first started claying. And then they discontinued it. Fimo, like every other company on this planet, likes to discontinue and reintroduce stuff. It's a joy of theirs. Just when you found something and you're like, yes, I know I can use this, and you go to order it and they're like, nope. Like the metallic green and blue that I wanted to use for my peacock. Now, because this cat is tiny, we are looking at the smallest cat eyes in the universe. So you want 2 really tiny little balls of clay that are the same size. So that would probably do it for me. See the tininess of these? And you're going to make them so that the edges are tapered. And what you do is you roll it between your finger and your thumb at the corners, and it makes that sort of leaf shape. Whoop.
Lucy says Lynn Tom's Carly language is making a dirty magnet. Oh, I think she's linking it.
So I'll show you what I'm doing once I've got these 2. But can you see 2 tiny little teardrop shapes? Now, hope you appreciate this, Lucy. I'm not a miniature worker. I don't hate it, but I'm definitely not comfortable. Right, eye in there. And level on the other side like this. Whoop.
Lucy says, oh, thank you.
I'm going to have to sort out that forehead when I put the ears in. The ears will sort it, I'm sure. At the moment, one of my eyes wants to go top to bottom rather than side to side, which is not how eyes look. There we go. Right. Tiny little eyes in there. And you've got your little cat face. I know we've not got a lot of top head at the moment, but I am going to put that in. Right, we need the little tiny cat pupils. So, from that amount of clay, what I'm going to do is use my needle tool just to break off that amount of clay. You can see how small we're talking here.
Yep.
This is what happens when you start getting into miniatures. So, what I've ended up with my shaky hands is a fine little tiny stick. Yeah? And that is going in the center, top to bottom of that eye. Come on, shaky hands. Sorry, couldn't talk then. Because the more you talk, the more vibration you're putting through your hands, and the more you're going to actually mess that up. So same again, tiny little bit, rolling it with my finger, turn it into a tiny little stick, and then top to bottom on the center of the eye. So let's hold that up now. See? Tiny eyes. It looks shocked until you give it a top eyelid. So that's the next stage. The little top eyelid. So again, real small amounts of clay here that are the same sort of size. Gonna bring them into balls. Now, a top eyelid, how I do it, takes a little bit of jiggery pokery with your hands. Because what you're gonna do, let's do it on a bigger bit, then you ain't seeing it on that tiny bit. So, your ball, you're going to, once it's smoothed out into a ball, you're going to first off flatten it down into a disc. Then, with that disc still stuck to your finger, you're going to use your thumb on the bottom. This finger goes to the side, this thumb goes to the side there, and that back finger is still supporting it. So like that. And you're going to push. Like so. And you get... Sorry, I'm just pinching out the corners. Whoop! Do not fall on the work. Can you see that sort of semicircle pinched corner look going on there? Yeah?
Yep.
That's what you're trying to do with that. Yeah. Now, for all those who ask for custom work, I tell you that I do not make stuff under 1 centimetre for a reason.
Too much.
It's just so stressful to make sure that you've got all these little bits absolutely perfect. And it's harder to show on camera. But because I love my Lulu and she loves her mate, we're doing this. For my twins dirty and clean sign, it got Star Trek themed, wasn't it? It was the Klingon Empire for the dirty and the Federation for the clean. Right, let's put this in. You're gonna start by placing it the center on first and then wrap the corners around. Let's push that into place. See, like that? You've now got a top eyelid in place there. Let's top eyelid the other one. Whoop. So, center gets lined up and the edges will wrap round once you put it in. So there we go. You can put a bottom eyelid on, but with this level of size, I'm not putting a bottom eyelid on.
Lucy says you need to show the clean one as well at the end.
Yeah. Now, we're going to put that head in place and then put the ears on.
Really?
Yeah. Because I've got to handle it somewhere without smudging it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now, what I'm going to do is use my tool in between those eyes to push that into place so that it's looking up. Whoop. Like that. Now, I am aware that it looks weird so far because it's not got any ears. But we've got the cat face. We've got the cat body. Okay. We've still got to put little stars on around the outside, but it turned out the stars that I made were too big. So I'm going to come back in and remake them. Now, cat ears. What you need for cat ears, again, let's show you it in big before I make it ridiculously tiny. You're going to start out with a ball that then goes to a teardrop. Then you want anything with a triangle head. So something like that. Pair of tweezers. Anything you can find with that sort of point. Because what you're going to do is you're going to get the widest part of that teardrop and you're going to force it up and around the tip of that triangle. So can you see it's now right in the middle there. And you can put, before you force it down, if you put a tiny triangle of a different colour and force it in, it makes a good inner ear colour. But can you see now you've got that sort of cat ear shape, and you can then lay them down and put them into place. Well, we're doing 2 of those tiny tinies, and you can still use the same tool, but you're just using the far more of the tip than you were when I did the big one. So into a point like this, little tip of that tool, bringing it round, shape the point up. There we are. Tiny little cat ear. Oops, dropped it. Oop, it bounced. Back here, you. Right, let's do a second one of them quickly and put it in place. Then I will hold up the clean sign. Have I got time to make a few stars just to show what it would look like when we're finished? So, cat ear in there. Now, you're going to need to fold it and finagle it and just get it so that it's laying where you want it to. And I find it's easy to put the back side of it in and then smooth down. I'll show you once I've got it on. Let me mess around with some of the lines on this, because it's looking a little bit odd. But that kind of thing, that mouth bumper's gone to one side. Let's bring it round. Sorry, I do fiddle around to get it perfect, but we've got a cat in like that. I'm going to fiddle around and make that face just slightly narrower and looking more cat-like. Let's do a star quickly to put in. This is the clean sign that we've done already. There we are. So you've got clean and you've got dirty, and they're going to get varnished.
And the stars are going to go on.
The stars, what I'm going to do, let's get one and shrink it down. So,
You're going to chop it, or are you going to...
no, just deassemble it, pull a pinch off the tips, like so. So the balls are a lot smaller. Let's get the black off my hands, because my yellow is getting discernibly less yellow. There we go. Right. You'll find learning how to roll 2 balls together, like one in each hand, will save you a whole lot of time. So, like this, because there's 5, I'm going to have 1 spare. Then we're going to form them into little teardrops. And you can do them as well 2 at a time, just by rolling on your glass board, like so. Just bring out the last one. There we are. Then let's put them together. So 2 push together at the top to make like bunny ears. Push the bead into the middle. 2 onto the side of the bead. 1 onto the bottom. And then secure it all down. Make sure they're all stuck to each other. And that bead is in the centre how you want. Like that. Get my tissue blade. Let's put this one in place down here. wrap the towel. I think I'll flick the towel up a little like that. So that's the first one. I'll make a couple more and then that'll be it. And the other thing you can do, if you don't want to disassemble it, just pull the tips off the star like that. Make sure you keep your yellow right out of the way because you don't want that all to get mixed in where you don't want it. You can then reform the points whilst it's all still attached if you come in and find that it's all too big. Like that, and then you've discovered you've got extra clay to use for something else. See? Perfectly fine star without disassembling the whole thing. So that one comes in, it's going to go down there. And in each of the raised bumps, like I did with the flowers, I'm going to come in and put these little stars in. But let's hold him up. Do a little bit more finagling on the face. Then I bake it all, varnish it all. They've already got their magnets in. I hope you have a wonderful birthday, Lynn, and that these guys are useful to you. And I will say goodbye to you all. Hopefully next week what I want to do is I've got some metal Alice bands like this. I'm going to clay cover these because as you see I wear them all the time with keep my fringe out my face, and I thought why not clay on them. So a 10 pack of metal Alice bands is actually only like about £3. So if you can come in and start clay covering, it's just so much better. Right, okay, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next Wednesday when I will be doing probably a complex cane to cover a hairband with. Okay?
Thank you, I love them.
That's fine. I'm glad that you like them. I will get them sent to either to Lucy, or Lucy will give me your address and I'll send them directly to you, whichever way she wants. Okay? Alright. Thanks very much everyone. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all the good stuff that really helped me out build my channel. Okay, bye!